Okay, talk a bit about the cloud. Cloud networks, hybrid networks really, undeniably going to be the future. Everybody's galloping off there at a great rate of knots. They present a number of opportunities for organisations of all sizes and all industries. So the cloud, a bit like our AI, is vertical agnostic. The market is moving to new computing architectures. There's one of these Gartner quotes, 2020. The previous speaker pointed this out. 2020 is only 13 months away. That's how fast things are moving. These transformative innovations enable organisations to, boost efficiency, scale on demand, benefit from constant availability of services and increased agility. That's why everybody's moving to the cloud. Speaking from a Canadian perspective, Quebec's the biggest place to move to the cloud in Canada. The cloud also enables organisations to embrace other innovative approaches and technologies, for example, edge computing, IoT, smart cities and all that kind of thing. It's easier to do if you're in the cloud, if somebody else is holding your data for you. But while the move to cloud has undoubtedly big benefits for organisations, it fundamentally changes the security paradigm, and that's where I'm going to be coming from. So I'm going to be talking about the security side. So, while organisations can outsource their IT infrastructure and processes, they cannot outsource their security altogether. I'm sure you all know that. Okay, so what's the weather forecast? Cloudy with a chance of risk. Or maybe it's cloudy with a risk of chance, but there you go. But with this kind of business opportunity comes challenges. The cloud's going to be a bit of a blind spot for many organisations. Folks, when you go to the cloud, your data goes over the horizon. Okay, it's left, it's gone over the horizon, it's somewhere else now. The migration to the cloud comes with a new set of security challenges. Okay, lack of visibility within the cloud, I just said that. Your security teams are struggling to deal with the threat they face. Too much, too complex, too fast, people can't keep up. And business diversity itself. But now all of this is happening over the horizon. Lack of visibility, lack of control. Your familiar on-premise security tools, often not really appropriate out there anymore. The attack surface is incredibly expanded. The cloud opens organizations to new threat vectors, which I'm going to discuss, and expands the number of entry points into your network. And last but not least, the speed at which developers can spin up a cloud instance means they can do so without security in mind. Sure, that never happens in your organizations. Cricket, cricket. But you can do it really, really quickly. I was with one of our resellers just the other week, and they were showing me how it works, spun one up, and it was less than 30 seconds. We then went off to lunch and had forgotten all about it. But there you go. When it's your own system, when it's on-prem, you're in control. Okay? That's not the case in the cloud. The shared responsibility model is the idea that while organizations can outsource their IT processes, they cannot outsource these security functions. Your cloud service provider is only responsible for a portion of that security. And that varies from provider, and it varies whether you're using SaaS, IaaS, or PaaS. Again, look at that Gartner quote. 95% of breaches will fall within the customer's portion of the shared responsibility model by 20. That's huge. That's an absolutely huge figure. That's you folks. That's not your cloud service providers. That's where the threat, that's where the risk lies. Okay, threat vectors in the cloud. Insider threat, an oldie but a goldie. Always remember, folks, there's three kinds of insider. Those who are going to cause some damage, 80% of the time it's a guy. For whatever reason, there always is a reason. People who make mistakes, and never underestimate good old-fashioned stupid, all right? But this threat vector has increased potency when it's in the cloud. Imagine that, folks, stupidity plus potency in the cloud. Exacerbated by the lack of visibility and cloud control, as I said before. And there are many high-grade examples of this. Down here in the States, we've got Eric Snowden, what he did a few years ago. Compromised credentials, always an issue, but again, increased potency and ability when it happens in the cloud. With IaaS in particular, user credentials for system administrations are often seen as the keys to invaluable cloud assets. For example, sensitive data in production, test environments, and even management of the cloud infrastructure itself. When this happens in the cloud, it's gone over the horizons, you haven't got control and you can't see what's happening. They can even use system administrator credentials to spin up cloud instances and launch extensive crypto mining operations, or even the odd DDoS attack. The one that's causing the most problems currently, and will probably continue to be so, is critical misconfigurations. Common. Agility of deployment and rapid instantiation of test containers and data sets facilitated by the cloud means that people can move quickly at the expense of security. There are massive commercial drivers for you to get things done and get things done quickly, and security can get left behind. Developers can deploy a cloud instance in minutes, actually even less, without having to consult with security, as we said before, and this will result in misconfigurations. They can range from forgetting to deploy the native security controls. Don't forget, they'll be provided to you, but they're tools and you've got to use them. But you forget to use them, to accidentally configuring a test environment to be public-facing, or as we saw recently on one of our networks that we cover, they just completely forgot about what they'd left there, and it was open and it was getting port scanned to pieces. Unsecured APIs become one of the most impactful misconfigurations in cloud. Again, a reflection of developers moving too fast without security in mind. Okay, a bit more doom and gloom, and then we'll get on to the solution. Don't worry, the cavalry is coming. There are two security approaches currently in the cloud. These are your native security tools and third-party offerings, your CASBs, your cloud access security brokers in SaaS, and CWPPs, cloud workload protection platforms for IaaS. But there are some limitations with these controls, folks. Looking at native security tools, good. They'll do the network, firewall, they do the containers. It's all good stuff. They can contribute to the overall defense in depth strategy, but they're not sufficient. But they're insufficient in practice. They cannot be relied on for comprehensive coverage, and they tend to be more useful for regulatory compliance rather than cybersecurity. And they're often very logs-based. Now that's great news. If you get hacked, you can get the logs and show exactly what happened, but really you want to be in a position where you don't get hacked in the first place. And always remember, logs can be altered, changed, and deleted. Any bad guy worth his salt will be doing exactly that. Limitations of third-party offerings. Broadly speaking, they specialize in preventative controls, compliance, and visibility. While these capabilities have their place, they will often fail to catch subtle or targeted attacks, your low and slow attacks. It's a legacy approach using rules and signatures that cannot be expected to provide sufficient protection against advanced attacks. If you're going to rely on rules and signatures, folks, you're going to be relying on either knowing what all the bad stuff is and keeping it off your network. I want to say to you, you can't do that. You can't know all the bad. Or, on the rules side, based on past experience, you're going to try and predefine what bad is going to be. It's a good thing to do, but it's not going to be enough, and it's not been enough for a long time now. That will continue with your CASBs and your CWPPs. The bottom line is we need a new approach, as the current options will not protect organizations from the host of subtle and unpredictable attacks and threats that we're seeing nowadays, particularly those driven by artificial intelligence. Okay, here comes our solution. This is the Darktrace solution. I'm going to tell you how Darktrace works. We call it the enterprise immune system because there's we're going to use a metaphor here of the human immune system, okay? And what we've come up with is an immune system for computer networks. The immune system, best known on the planet, and it has an innate understanding of self. It knows me as me and you as you, because just like computer networks are all completely different. My immune system's work is routine and automatic, and it expects intrusion. So the minute something gets through my firewall, my skin, but that's what your skin is, the human immune system just knows straight away, not me, gets to work on it, okay? That's how that works. And our scientists have come up with a version of that for computer networks. We do it by basically taking all your raw network traffic, cloud, virtual, on-prem, doesn't matter where it is, we can get it, onto our software for analysis. We do it passively. So if you're on-prem, we do it through a port span or tap, and we're in port mirroring on. So we don't actually affect your network when we're actually finding threat. What the software simply does is, for every single packet off the wire, it's stripping off the metadata around every packet, building very, very accurate mathematical models, and because of that, the machine, unsupervised machine learning, folks, learns the pattern of life of everything on the network, every user device, container, DNS, server, subnet, blah, blah, whatever. It learns the pattern of life. And because it now knows the pattern of life, it can see even the subtlest deviations to that pattern of life at the microsecond that it changes and can tell you about it. That's how our AI works. That's how it works. That's how we find threat on networks. The great news is, because we now know the pattern of life of everything that's in your network, in your cloud, wherever it is, we can now enforce the pattern of life. And this is how we stop threat, by enforcing that learned pattern of life. So when it changes, we quarantine, stop, slow down, strangle, whatever you want to do, the change, but we enforce the learned pattern of life up to the moment it changed. And that's how we stop threat. The great news is, all we stop is the threat, nothing else. The computer keeps computing, the HVAC and the lights stay on, the accountant keeps accounting. And that's how our AI works. Doesn't matter what the threat is, because we don't care about it. We don't care about the big bad world, all those rules, signatures, threat intelligence. Not interested, because you can't keep up with this stuff. We're just using your own network to look for change and then assess how much of a change that is, compare it to the learned pattern of life. Bigger the change, more deserving of your attention right here and now. AI autonomous response. Some of the things we do on-prem is we just simply stop the SYNAC thing from happening with TCP resets. The malware gets stuck, can't do anything. In the cloud, we'll do things such as terminating VMs, editing S3 bucket permissions in AWS. Does anybody know why AWS call them S3, by the way? Anyway, edit user permissions. But the important thing is, this is all done automatically, okay? But the only thing we're doing is stopping that change, nothing else. Everything else continues, okay? This is fully customizable. It's any which way you want it. It'll do it for how long as you want it, where you want it to happen. And some of you might want to consider that currently the best way some of our clients use this is to set it running from 5 o'clock on a Friday till 9 o'clock on a Monday morning, because you come in, everything's still working, but any funkiness that kicked off at the weekend, stuck there, ready for security teams to then go and deal with. And you'll get complete visibility. We're going to show you this in a second. You will see absolutely everything. And you'll see everything in that big, much looked for one pane of glass. You can see it all there. Absolutely everything. Your entire digital infrastructure, wherever your raw network traffic is, brought back for analysis by our software, threat shown, threat stopped. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to call up my colleague Sheridan, and while she tries to avoid electrocution while fiddling around with the cables, if anyone wants to shout out a question, I'll give it a go.
Nothing. No questions?
All right, I'll give you a quick funny story then. We're in a financial institution somewhere in the world. Remember, we showed 100% visibility. We said to them, hey, you get 12 servers currently engaged in crypto mining. They went, we haven't actually got those 12 servers. Yes, you do. No, we don't. Yes, you do. No, we don't. Yes, you do. Because we could show them. And they simply refused to believe that they had 12 servers they didn't know about. We had to go into their data center and with our technical guys follow the cables, and we find 12 of them under the floorboards. What we then discovered, there was a guy who was responsible for goods in, was siphoning off the odd server, stuck him under the floorboard so he could set up his own Bitcoin mining farm. There's no rule for this, folks. There's no signature for this. You will only find this if you get 100% visibility, and it's AI that's doing it in the blink of an eye to find this kind of thing for you. Anyway, come on, folks. Give me some questions at the end of the demonstration. Sheridan.
All right, thank you very much, Dave. So ultimately what I'm here to do is bring this all to life for you. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. How do I switch over?
How do you split the screen?
Mm-hmm.
Technical guys, we split the screen. How do we get this on? Kill my presentation. Where is it? Is this it?
Mm-mm.
Folks, come on, give me some questions while we work out how our MacBook split screen works. Does anybody understand the concept? Okay, no rules, no signatures, no threat intelligence, just using the raw network traffic, looking for change. Does that all make sense to people? Sir? Sorry? Oh, right, encrypted traffic. Very good question. We're taking the measurements from outside every single packet off the wire. Okay, we're not actually interested in the payload itself. really, really not interested. For all the privacy buffs out there, the software can't see your data, so we don't care about encryption, okay? If it's an encrypted packet, we're more interested in what is it doing on the network. Its inevitable behavior will decide whether it's malicious or not what it actually is. And for those on ICS and SCADA systems, all those bespoke protocols are just forms of encryption. Same thing applies. Sheridan.
I promise my understanding of Darktrace is better than presenting. All right, so here we have the Darktrace user interface. It's what we call the threat visualizer. So it is designed to be extremely intuitive, whether you're a CISO that's in here just every so often, or whether you're an analyst that's getting in here every single day. You should have a pretty comprehensive understanding of what it is that you're looking at. So immediately, you'll go ahead and see and notice these cubes. So the cubes represent everywhere that Darktrace is currently protecting your subnets. It is color-coded, so the cooler colors, like these blues over here, represent areas where less anomalous behavior has been detected. There's probably not too much, honestly, to be concerned about, whereas these yellows, the warmer colors, represent areas where anomalous behavior has been detected. There's probably some threat investigation that needs to be done. So you can click into any single one of these cubes. Same color coding applies, and you can just take a look at the various subnets. But I'll keep moving on right here, and I do want to go ahead and emphasize some of these statistics over on the left-hand side, specifically number of devices. Dave mentioned earlier in his presentation visibility. One of the struggles when you migrate toward a cloud environment is loss of insight on who and what is in that cloud environment. And it's so cheesy, but how can you ultimately expect to defend your network when you don't even know what's there? So with Darktrace, we're looking at anything with an IP address. And if you clicked in, I just pre-downloaded it already, you actually can get a list of everything that's been on your network organized by the date that it was last seen. So this is a page that's generally useful as a full-time Darktrace customer, but I'll keep moving for now. Up here, I'm going to bring your attention to the Omni search bar, better known just as the Google of Darktrace. It's great for pointed, targeted searches. So let's say that Mr. James Proctor had an incident on his computer last week, and he wanted to go ahead and check up, see what was happening, and make sure everything was still smooth. You can absolutely go ahead and do a search this way. Maybe you're looking for a specific iPhone, or maybe you're just searching for an IP address. Whatever the case may be, it's great, again, for specific searches. But I do want to go ahead and show you this domain controller view really quickly. Again, obviously it's a pretty picture, but that's not the reason that I'm pulling it up. It emphasizes Darktrace's visibility. So over here, we have various desktops on the left-hand side, servers on the right-hand side, and then we have that domain controller in the center. As you can see, when I hover over all of these devices, you're getting that rich metadata right at the palm of your hand. Saves small and large IT teams plenty of time. Again, very helpful for threat investigation. But with that, moving down here, this is what we call the threat tray. It is truly the heart and soul of Darktrace. It's where the AI and unsupervised machine learning comes to life. So anytime the enterprise immune system has detected anomalous behavior and has generated an alert, you're going to find those alerts down here. Again, color coding applies. So red means it's the most anomalous behavior, moving towards yellow, which is less anomalous behavior that's been identified. You can categorize what it is that you're seeing. So maybe you're interested in the devices that have had the most recent breaches. Maybe you're concerned about what Antigena or autonomous response feature that Dave mentioned actually took action on. You can change that accordingly. Most of my clients just go ahead and set the time frame to the last 24 hours. They'll get themselves onto Darktrace first thing in the morning, spend 10 to 20 minutes depending upon the day, and go through a similar workflow that I'm actually about to show you. So with that, let's do some investigation. Cool. So right here, you can see unusual activity. That sounds interesting. So we go ahead and click into it, and you can hover over any one of these, kind of get a sense of what you're up against. Let's start down here. So we know that the credential right here says Sue Smith. It's her desktop computer that's been compromised. And we also know that Sue's been tagged as part of the HR team and on the watch list. So in terms of watch list, maybe she's put in her 2 weeks notice, so they just want to keep an extra set of eyes on her. Maybe there's been a previous incident with Sue Smith, just something to keep in mind for contextual purposes. What I'll go ahead and do now is open this up And immediately you'll notice that this starts playing back the event in real time. So you can get a visual sense of what actually happened. And I'm also going to pull up this device event log to help you correlate as well. So if we just start from where this immediately goes, it's Friday morning, it's 5:17 a.m., definitely unusual time for Sue Smith in HR to be on her computer. I would consider myself a hard worker, but I'm not up at 5:17 a.m. doing work. And that being said, now we're seeing that she's trying to connect to a file server within milliseconds of each other. So clearly, that's not Sue Smith doing her due diligence. That's some sort of reconnaissance mission at work. And if we scroll up here, ultimately, again, milliseconds later, she gets connected to that file server, and she's immediately looking at various documents, right? Administrative, right here, she's looking at M&A requirements and pricing from July 2014. I'm gonna go ahead and pause this, and I just wanna emphasize that a little bit. Dave mentioned that we're only concerned with the packet header. So knowing that Sue Smith is in HR, and now that she's looking at an M&A document, that's a little bit strange, and the machine learning knows that as well. We also know it's 2018. This is a document from 2014 that's probably been rather untouched. So if you combine that fact with the fact that actions are happening within milliseconds of each other, something's definitely off, right? And the machine verifies that right here. In italics, we see an increase in internal data accessed. So Darktrace prides itself on not being a noisy system. So we're noticing these deviations. We know that Sue Smith is acting abnormally. She hasn't deviated enough mathematically to warrant an alert down here in the threat tray, but we are concerned about her. Scrolling up, again, from start to finish, a matter of seconds, milliseconds later, we do go ahead and alert you to unusual activity due to internal data transfer, internal connected devices, and internal connections to closed ports. So let's say you wanted to dive a little bit deeper into internal data transfer. This is how Sue Smith normally behaves, and then you were seeing her behavior and that spike at the time of the breach. So with that, just one other view that I like to show you. So back when Darktrace first started out, like Dave said, we took a fundamentally different approach to cybersecurity. So people would see this demo, they'd say, all right, I love it, I get what you do, but what happens if Sue Smith had already been compromised when Darktrace plugs in? Wouldn't you just go ahead and expect that this is usual, normal behavior for her? And the answer is no, because what we do is we compare, contrast, and cluster like users and devices. So not only are we looking at Sue Smith alone, we're comparing her to her peers. But if we see right here, so this would be Sue Smith, even compared to her past behavior, she's sticking out like a sore thumb. Move it over, we're seeing her next to her peers, same visualization happens. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and hand it back to Dave. We do have ample time for questions, so don't be a stranger, ask away.
Okay, let's see if I can get my thing back. This one. Hooray! Folks, just before we take some Q&A, I just want to give you an example. Madam, I will come back to you, don't worry, spotted you. Of kind of thing that can go on in the cloud. This was an IT firm back in the United Kingdom. They were undergoing some changes. As part of those changes, just pull it out. There we go. As part of those changes, the IT manager got sacked. Okay, sorry, the IT manager was being allowed to go and develop further opportunities somewhere else. Obviously, the IT manager would be disgruntled about that. Curiously, we'd been doing a proof of value in there, but the IT manager had never come along to it, so they never actually saw the power of Darktrace. What this individual was doing was decided to steal the client list for the entire company and then take it off and obviously sell it somewhere on. But they decided to do this in the cloud because they figured, if I do it in the cloud, then I'm going to see what I'm doing. So that's what they did, download it in the cloud and then tried to export from the cloud. But we could see everything. For this individual, the amount of data that they suddenly started downloading was unusual compared to their partner life. The device they were using it for, this was unusual for that device to have received this amount of internal data. The IP address, the external server, a personal domain, Outside was 100% unusual for this kind of activity to be happening. And again, this individual, although the company itself was heavily cloud-based for all the reasons we've said before and other people say throughout today for, for cost and efficiency reasons, their particular use of cloud was extremely, extremely unusual for them to do so. And the AI spotted it in seconds, and we were able to alert the company what was going on. And the individual was given all the opportunity they needed in the remaining few hours in the company when it happened. That's an example of an attack which would be difficult to see unless you took this kind of approach. Okay, I'm going to open up for questions now, and the first one I'm going to ask for is Madam.
I have a mic if anyone's got questions.
You should bring the mic down.
There we go. I'm going the wrong direction. Here we go.
Thank you. What's the average training time that you require, and what's the minimum amount of data,
Okay,
like historical data?
Okay, training time and amount of data. Training time, I'm going to say, do you mean how long does it take for the artificial intelligence to start, really understanding the pattern of life of what it's seeing? Okay, it starts working within minutes. For our proof of concept, we call it proof of value. We usually leave it in for about a working week, say 10 days, just so that when we come in and show you all the goodness of this, there's some rich results there to see. But it does actually start working pretty quickly on. For full maturity, it's about 2 months. Yeah, about 2 months. And remember, the AI is at its worst when you start because it's just literally started. The longer in, the better it is. I'll give you an example. We installed in a big power station back in the United Kingdom. It actually supplies 8% of the UK's entire power, actually. Plugged it in. By the way, plugging it in on an on-prem is dead easy. You literally go chunk, and off you go. That's it. That's the configuration. That's what it needs. And within an hour and a half, it had worked out that there were 5 DNS servers. By the way, this was on the firm's IT network, not their OT, but we now do their OT. And on the IT, 5 DNS servers, but within an hour and a half, it worked out one of those DNS servers wasn't like the other 5 and was going beep to an IP address east of Berlin. That's all I'll say in that. It only took an hour and a half for it to work that out. There was something unusual there. So that was training time. What was your second question again?
If you have any requirements for the minimum for the historical data, or like a real time, do you train your algorithms on the real time data, or you look at the historical?
All we're going to use is your raw network traffic. There is no, folks, it's really important for you to understand this, no training data sets. This is unsupervised machine learning. If we start training the machines, all you can train them on is knowing all the bad and what you think bad's going to be. And they'll be fantastically good at doing that, but they're not going to see what's coming next or what's going to happen in the future. It's too much, too complex, too fast, moving too fast. That's why we aren't bothering with that world anymore. The other thing about training data sets is they can get hacked, and we've actually seen that. We saw where training data was hacked in order to disguise the malicious parts of the code, so that when classifiers looked at it, they would classify it as benign. We've actually seen that happen already. So we don't use any of that at all.
And just one more question.
Keep going.
What check and balances do you guys have in place to catch the ML errors? And, for example, if the algo classifies certain activity wrongly as malicious?
Do you mean the good old-fashioned false positive?
Correct.
Okay. Some of you aren't going to like this. There are no false positives with this. Everything we find is a genuine anomaly and departure from the learned pattern of life of whatever it is or whoever it is at that time. The question you want to ask is it threat? Okay? Is all change threat? No. But all threat will be one of those changes. Sitting on top of the machine learning results, we use some mathematics. This is why I always ask the question about if we get any double PhD mathematicians in high school. Bayesian recursive estimation, what it does is it recalculates probabilities based on emerging evidence. And these models that are being built are constantly being built, okay? What the maths effectively does is go, that is a change, but this is how much of a change it is from that learned pattern of life. You get a score between 1 and 100. And the higher the score, the more deserving it is of your attention by your security team now. Remember, we're doing this in real time, okay? And it reduces what you would know commonly call false positives. The AI is only going to deliver results that are really meaningful for your teams to actually deal with. This is how we use AI to prioritize, not just find threat, but to prioritize threat for you. And it's quite simple that a 90, 70, 60 score, you're going to look at 90 first, then 70, then 60. So no false positives. Now, some of the stuff that you'll be finding, your security team, do you know what, okay, yeah, but I'm happy with that. But I'm going to tell you now, your security team is probably just glad they knew about it, because without this, they won't know about it. Remember I spoke before about spinning up spinning up cloud containers really quickly, doing a whole load of stuff without having to go through IT? This is your backstop to actually find out what's going on, okay, because you will see absolutely everything, cloud, virtual, on-prem, wherever you happen to be. Is that okay?
Okay, are there
go.
any other questions? We got one right here.
Sir.
So what do you actually need to install this?
What do you actually need?
Where does it go?
Okay.
In your routers or?
Let's talk about hybrid. Okay, so you're on the cloud, you're all over the place, you've still got your headquarters. We'll probably put a box at the core of your network, off a span or a tap. Small box is about 1U rack space, the rest are all 2U. And we literally say copper or cable. That's it. That's it. That's all you need.
So the hardware is required?
Not necessarily. If you're completely in the cloud, then we're completely in the cloud. What we'll do is we'll spin up a bit of the cloud next door to you, and we'll put in when we're in the cloud, in your bit of the cloud, we spin up a VM and put in sensors to capture all your raw network traffic partner life in wherever you are in the cloud. Bring it to the VM, analyze it, send it to our bit of the cloud, and then we send you the results back. And the only hardware will be whatever it is you're looking at the results on, whatever you use to see the GUI.
Okay. And just another kind of different question. What do you integrate with? So I'm thinking particularly with workflow. So these events happen. Is it all managed in yours, or can you export that to other task management systems?
Yeah, we'll export the results to whatever you want, okay? Even if it's just your mobile phone, we can do that. We integrate with all SIMs, Curator, Splunk, ArcSight, whatever, because obviously you've probably got a lot of security product right now and you want to look at it through one pane of glass. You can do that with Darktrace. Yeah, absolutely. Has anybody here ever integrated a SIM?
Any other questions?
Anybody still integrating a SIM?
Looks like no other questions.
Come on, we've got 4 minutes.
We got one. We got one.
Here we go.
In the example we gave where Sue was doing things that were kind of off the grid, how did you know that was Sue?
That was through Active Directory in this particular case.
Okay, so in addition to plugging it in, you have to tell it about your Active Directories.
Yeah, if you've got it. Yeah, if you've got it. I don't know. So I wasn't paying attention at one point. It drifted off. It wasn't Sue. It was malware. Sue was actually on holiday. Because if you looked at the example, a human being can't do all those things. That's what it was. And it had waited until it realized it's early in the morning, nobody's touched the keyboard for a while, or the mouse hasn't moved, and figured it was good to detonate, and that's what it did.
And it also knew it had to get out of Active Directory the fact that Sue was in HR, and it had to figure out who Sue's coworkers were and all of that. So I guess that has to be configured in. Was it auto?
You mean for us to discover that?
Yeah.
No, we just learn it off the raw network traffic. When Sheridan showed you the list of all the devices we were seeing on the network, you don't have to tell it what the devices are. It works it out for itself. Occasionally, it might get an iPhone and an iPad confused, but you can just go in and change it. Remember, we don't want to tell the machine what to do. We don't want to do that. We just want it to learn itself what's going on. Something that Sheridan mentioned was those tagging. She'd been tagged because she was in HR and something else. Can't remember on the watch list. So this is the 1% of Darktrace that isn't unsupervised machine learning. This is where you actually say to the machine, I want you to do this. And you can do that. You can get it to pay greater attention, if you like, to subnets, people, or whatever. Often the C-suite gets put in the watch list or tagged. I actually don't know why she was tagged. I think she'd been hacked before. But I don't know if you've ever done any of those spear phishing, phishing email awareness campaigns in your organizations. And I'm sure you know there's always a cohort of people who always click on that link. Well, put them on the watch list, because the AI is all over them like an old fur coat. Okay, top tip, by the way. We've got time for one more question.
One more question?
Madam,
we got one.
Madam.
Hi, I work for an MSP and we use something very similar, a similar tool. But I wanted to know what database you guys reference when it comes to new threats.
None. Ever. Never, ever, ever. No threat intelligence, no signatures, no rules. Never. Because as soon as you do that, you're telling the AI what to look for. And that's all it will do, is go and find what you've told it to look for. And you're going to have to hope that you've managed to cover everything it's ever going to need to look for. And I'm telling you, you can't do that. No databases, no threat intelligence, no rules, no signatures. We just look for change on your network traffic. That's all we do.
Got it. And just kind of in reference to the question that was asked earlier, when you're talking about monitoring endpoints and you have a physical, I guess a physical appliance versus a virtual appliance, are you charging on a, like per site or per node?
Okay, we don't do either, okay? Folks, this is an endpoint, all right? This is network, all right? So we don't do the endpoint. Hurrah to all the endpoint people out there. There we go, we're not in competition with you. We charge basically on the number of devices or the number of people in your organization, effectively. Yeah, that's pretty much the way we do it. Or if you're in the cloud, the number of people or devices, if it was a real word, that would be in the cloud. That's how we do it. All right, folks, we've got 15 seconds left. We're here all day. We've got a booth. Sheridan and my colleagues are here. We'd love to get more of your questions. We're happy to do the live demo again at the booth if you want to. If nothing else to say, thanks very much. See you later.
Thank you. Great. A lot of people are looking for, when you go to the breakouts, for these mezzanine rooms, and it's hard to find. It's an old hotel. They're actually physically located. If you're looking for a room, you can't find it. They're actually physically located right on the other side of that wall, but we can't open these doors. So you got to go out and around to registration, keep on going, and eventually, once you get past registration, down the stairs, take a left, and they're there. But if you keep in your mind that the rooms you're looking for are on the other side of that wall, you'll find them. So I've been asked to remind everyone of that. We'll get going again here at 11 with Bill Schmartzo, the king and god of big data. Thank you.